Welcome to the Unpacking It podcast with Bryce Johnson. It's a show that unpacks sports, faith, and life with intriguing guests from the sports and entertainment world. Enjoy inspiring conversations and thought-provoking interviews. You'll hear stories from people that will inspire, challenge, and encourage you. Now, from the Unpacking It studios in Charlotte, North Carolina, uniting sports fans everywhere, here is Bryce Johnson.
And joining us now is Coach Bob Stoops. He spent 18 years at Oklahoma, winning 190 games, losing only 48. He resigned in June 2017 after an impressive tenure that included a national championship in 2000 and winning 10 Big 12 titles. He played defensive back in college at Iowa, where he was the team MVP in 1982. Coach Stoops has a new memoir. It's called No Excuses, The Making of a Head Coach. It chronicles his rise in football, his life and legacy, and the exciting chapters to come as he remains intimately connected to college football, OU, the Big 12, and in 2020 will be leading a new team, the Dallas Renegades, in the inaugural season of the XFL. Coach, thanks so much for joining us. How are you?
I'm doing great, thanks. Great to be with you today.
All right, well, we're glad to have you on, and actually, I want to start with your new book, No Excuses, and I'm curious, what was the process like for you putting this book together? What were the most rewarding aspects, and what were the tougher parts of really determining what to write?
Well, just, I wrote it with the co-author, Gene Wojciechowski, who's, a pro's pro, great writer. He's written about 12, 13 books. So he really had to lay out what he thought would be the proper way to go about it. And then it was, for me, a lot of reflection going back from my younger days, childhood days, through high school, college, and then my entire coaching career and my path. So we just tried to pick out the bigger moments or the different moments, and a lot of funny stories throughout those times. So it was really easy to do with Gene because he's such a pro. But it was fun to reflect on so many fun, great moments. Some tough moments, losing my father young, talking and reliving that wasn't easy to do. And as well as, there's one part in there, there's a health scare for a period of time with my daughter at 5 years old, and she's great now, but going back and revisiting that time was really hard. But, I did it because I'm asked so many times, what was your path to becoming a head coach? Like, someone will tell me, I want to be a head coach. How did you do it? How does it work? And, you can't really tell somebody that in a 5-minute conversation. As well as, I'm asked all the time about how we changed the culture at Oklahoma so fast after so many years without championships. And then in our second year, we go undefeated and win the championship. And then win, so many, the next 20 years, we're probably the most consistent team in America, in that period of time from 2000 to now. So anyhow, those were the reasons to do it, and that was the process.
Oh, that's great. Coach Bob Stoops, our guest right now on Unpacking It, his new book, No Excuses, The Making of a Head Coach. And so when someone finishes reading your book, what do you hope they take away and learn? Because you kind of described your process and what you wanted to do. What do you want someone to take away moving forward after they finish?
Well, hopefully just that they understand the path I took, and how it happened. Also, maybe some of our philosophies and, what we thought was important in building our program and building it so quickly and how we kept it so successful, the consistency through the years. Again, there's a lot of what our thoughts were as a coaching staff and, the beliefs we had and the way we, dealt with our players, all of that. There's also, hopefully people realize, looking at all of us coaches around the country as well as even players, that we're just real people. We've got our difficult times as well as, great times, but, just that we're people as well, that we live normal lives.
That's right. It's always a good reminder for sure. Coach Bob Stoops, our guest right now on Unpacking It. And so as you reflect, how has coaching been a blessing in your life, and how has it been a challenge throughout your life?
Well, it's been more than anything. It's been a blessing. Dealing with these young men every single day. You have 105 players on your team. You'd be amazed at the faith, the strong religious beliefs so many have, the different chapel services, and we'd have chapel before every game, before our pregame meal. For a half hour before the game, before pregame meal, we'd all go in and we'd either have a speaker or one of the players would do it, and you'd just be amazed at the deep faith that so many of these young men have. All that's ever written about are the 1% that are in trouble for whatever reason, but you never get to see the behind the scenes of the true, strong faith of these guys and how so much of the time they can express it. And it really affects you.
And what about for you? How did your faith influence your coaching style and your approach as you run a team and a whole program there at Oklahoma?
Well, I've just always been a very faithful person, from my childhood on through high school, college. My family it was always instilled in me. And so I thought, I thought I had a window or an opportunity being the head coach to try in the right ways to always have it in front of our players or put it in front of our players. For instance, and like I said, never did we ever have a meal together as a team where one of the players didn't say a blessing ahead of us eating. We would constantly put, like I said, our chapel service in a window of time that it was really convenient for the players to be there. They'd be walking by the room, and because you never wanted to make it mandatory, but it was so convenient for them to walk right in the room, say right after a team stretch. Also, anytime there was a Sunday that we had to work, meaning we had to practice or we had to have meetings because of the way the time schedule was, we would always have a church service on a Sunday. My entire time that I coached there for 18 years, and we would have the players organize or our team chaplain, they would all be a part of the church service.
Wow. That
we would all, try and attend. So anyway, I tried to make it convenient and to keep, as much as I could, put it in front of them so that they would hopefully gravitate to some kind of faith and belief.
That's cool. Bob Stoops, our guest right now on Unpacking It. His new book is called No Excuses, The Making of a Head Coach. And of course, Coach, we know that you walked away from Oklahoma back in June 2017 as the head coach and still remain involved there. And we'll talk about your new role in the XFL in a moment. But I'm curious, coming to that decision, and I guess I'm curious from a faith perspective, what that was like from the prayer and getting counsel from others and just ultimately knowing in your heart and spirit that was the best decision for you at that time.
Well, there was no one to counsel with, really. It was just me. It's my life and what I was doing, and just a lot of reflection on my own part. I just felt that I had completed what I was to do at Oklahoma after 18 years, and I just felt like I had done it. This part of my life was complete at Oklahoma, and I had run my race. I was satisfied with it. There was nothing at all negative. It was all positive, and I felt I had the right guy in place that could continue to push a program you care about deeply to keep pushing it forward. And that person, of course, was Lincoln Riley. Mm-hmm. Someone told me it, and I'll get this wrong, but it was talking about this guy with deep faith. Here he was, found himself drowning in a river. And he's praying to God, surely you will not let me pass. I've been so faithful and I've been such a good servant to you. You'll save me. And meanwhile, while he's closed his eyes and he's praying and praying for God just to save him, meanwhile, here passes a log. Here comes another big log going by, or another vehicle that he could have saved himself. He let them all pass by. And he gets to heaven, and he's at the gate, and he's having an argument with whoever's, with God. Like, how could you have let me pass? He said, well, I gave you 3 opportunities that you could have saved yourself, and you didn't. And, so the point being, like, I just felt, why did this feeling come to me? And there must be a reason it's coming to me. And not that I was drowning in a river at all, but at the end of the day, I thought, yeah, this is right. And don't be afraid to act on it. And I just had faith that it was the right decision for me in my life.
That's great, and I like that story. That's a good one. Coach Bob Stoops with us here on Unpacking It. And so, since leaving as the head coach of Oklahoma, how has your faith grown, and how has your life maybe changed, and just kind of the rhythm of life changed the last couple of years?
Well, the rhythm of life is drastically different. I mean, it's incredibly hard, actually, but that doesn't mean it was wrong. I knew it was going to be difficult. It's such a strange, when all you've done forever is be with a gang of guys of, players and coaches every single day, competing and working, and, the competitiveness on Saturdays and working up to the game, the intensity of it all. Then all of a sudden it's not there. It's hard. It's a major change in your life, but it's okay. I'm learning little by little, and but my faith is the same. I don't know that I've any different that way, but it's just a different way to live.
And then you got kind of the sense that you wanted to return to coaching, and so you're joining the XFL as head coach and general manager in Dallas. And so what was that kind of thought process like, and at what point did you realize that was the next direction to go for you?
Well, just after the long conversations with Oliver Luck, the commissioner, who's a great leader and a highly successful guy, I got faith in him, and they want a vision for great football, and football people are used to watching and exciting football. And the owner, Vince McMahon, as well, a highly successful guy. Just fit me, myself right now, and my family. Dallas is relatively close, 2.5 hours down the road. So it'll be easy for my family to still come back and forth. So it all just seemed to work. I'm looking forward to working with older guys or players that have played a lot of football. And, there's good players out there that are right on the outside edge of the NFL. For instance, say the last 5 guys cut from every NFL football team. That's a lot of players, and that's a lot of good football players. So anyway, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be exciting, fun football.
And so now that you get back into it, do you think, what kind of changes or things that maybe you've recognized over the last couple of years as you've reflected on, your coaching career and your coaching style, and even kind of the changes in the coaching culture overall, what will you do differently and implement differently in this new role?
Well, I don't know I'll do a lot differently, but it'll be different in that I don't have to deal with class attendance, grade issues, compliance issues, things like that. I can just focus on football. And again, I think it'll be different working with players that are older and have a lot of football experience already. And
then from I guess, what will you miss most from the college side of things, and having that been your background, how do you feel like that will be different now going into the pros from what you'll miss standpoint?
Well, I don't know what I miss. You love the pageantry of college football, the band, and the student body, and all that goes all that goes with college programs. That's always special. So that part will be different. It'll just be the professional level is just a little bit different that way. But we'll still have a good fan base.
Absolutely. Coach Bob Stoops, our guest right now on Unpacking It. His new book, No Excuses, The Making of a Head Coach. And coming in 2020, he's going to be the new head coach and general manager of the Dallas Renegades in the XFL. And as we talk more about your book and really about your life, one of the things I find interesting is the fact that you're one of 6 children, and your brothers, of course, followed suit as coaches in football as well. And so when you were, I guess, tackling that side of your life as you were putting this book together, what were some of the things that you really wanted to make sure you shared about as far as growing up, being one of 6 kids?
Well, just that, money wasn't an issue. We didn't have, my father was just a high school teacher and coach. We worked hard in the summers painting houses to try and make extra money. 4 boys, we all grew up in one bedroom. You can imagine the chaos that was like. But I say all that because, I felt my father was one of the wealthiest people in the world because he loved what he did. He had a great life. My mother, he and my mother, great relationship. Even though 6 kids in a small house, I always knew, even today, how little I needed. How little I need, because we had everything, but we had very little. We had a small little 3-bedroom A-frame house, but we made it work. With a great neighborhood to grow up in, and everybody cared for one another, and it was fun, and money had nothing to do with it.
Wow, no, that's neat. And as you wrote about in the book and reflected on the death of your father, how impactful was that at the time that it happened, and now years later, as you look back, how do you feel like it really maybe changed your life, impacted your life?
Well, it's a major blow. My father was only 54 years old, looked to be in great health. He never overweight, didn't smoke, drink. He was still playing fast pitch softball. So when that happens so suddenly, it's hard. It changes you forever. And it was hard to reflect back on that moment at that time. But but he gave us a lot in the time we had him, and just caring about family, having a deep faith, and enjoy the competition of whatever you're doing. He was on a baseball field or coaching football all the time, and we were around sports our entire life, and so that rubbed off on all of us.
Coach Bob Stoops, our guest right now on Unpacking It, and you talk about your dad setting that example of finding joy in your job and being able to enjoy the the simple side of life and all that sort of thing. I'm curious your perspective on the word success and kind of even in light of that, because here you were, so much success at Oklahoma and win after win and winning a championship and all that. How did your perspective change over the years, and now even as you've kind of stepped away from that and being at the center of college football and all of that, how do you view success? What does that word mean to you at this point?
Well, and at the end of the day, it's success to me is how you are with your relationships with your family, your spouse, your friends. That's what's most important, and that's what I cared the most about. The wins and losses, I get it. I wanted to win, and at the end of the day, your record is what it is, but it isn't going to carry you through life like your family will, your friends will, and that's, to me, is where the true joy comes from.
Amen. I'm right there with you. Well, you mentioned a little bit earlier just kind of how the values of what you use to build Oklahoma and your coaching philosophy, and was reading a couple of those words, and would love to just have you share just a little bit about these 4 words: consistency, integrity, loyalty, and winning. That's what that's what represented you and Oklahoma for so many years. How do those words even translate for somebody listening today? Like what can those words, how can they bring value to someone's life?
Well, again, integrity means everything. I told my assistant coaches, if I told them once, I told them 100 times, I'll lose before I cheat. We're going to do things the right way. We're going to always do things the right way. We're going to work hard, and we're going to trust one another. And to me, that's what really matters. You got to. And I wanted to win, but we were going to do it the right way. We were going to work hard, and we were going to trust one another, players and coaches. And, it worked out for us. It worked out really well.
Coach Bob Stoops, our guest with us right now. No Excuses, The Making of a Head Coach is his new book. It's a memoir, and it chronicles his rise in football, his life and legacy, and what's to come as he's the head coach and general manager in the XFL with the Dallas Renegades. And my last question, so as you think about all the players that you've coached and had an impact on, is there a story of impact that you can share today? You don't even necessarily have to say the name of the player, but just someone that you look back and go, man, I'm so thankful that God used me in this person's life the way that he did. And you can look back and say, wow, this is who he was when he came into college, and to see who he is today. Is there somebody that specifically comes to mind? I'm sure there's many, but somebody that you could share about today?
Well, there's so many, with so many wonderful players that you deal with, and All-American Tommy Harris, who was a really faithful guy. His dad was a minister, and every time his dad would see me, he'd give me a hug and say, Coach, I love you and I'm praying for you. So one day, it's the day we're starting football camp one year, and Tommy's, again, a big, tough defensive lineman, and I get this note on my desk from Tommy Harris, said, Coach, I love you and I'm praying for you. And I thought it was his dad. So I said, I see Tommy the next day at practice, and I tap him on the shoe while he's stretching. I said, Tommy, I got the nicest note from your dad. He must have dropped you off here back at school. He stopped in my office, and I missed him, and he said he loved me and he's praying for me. And then I see a big little smirk, and Tommy smiling down there while he's stretching. And I go, what are you smiling about? He goes, Coach, that wasn't my dad. That was me. So I gave him a hug, and I said, thanks, buddy. And I said, no. And I winked at him. I said, any particular reason you're praying for me that I don't know? And so, but those are the neat things you get from these guys, these young guys that are so tough and great players, but you don't realize the sensitive side of them and just how cool they are as people, and I loved it, that's just, but that was Tommy too. He's a special young man.
He's awesome. He's been a guest on this show and really shared a powerful story with us, and he was an excellent guest. So I'm not surprised to hear that story. Coach, it's so great to talk with you today, and excited about your new book, No Excuses, The Making of a Head Coach. He's Coach Bob Stoops. Really appreciate you being a part of Unpacking It today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Have a good day.
For more information about the show, our events, and other resources, visit unpackinit.com. That's unpackinit.com. We hope you are encouraged, inspired, and challenged by what you heard today. To support our show and Unpacking It Ministries with a financial gift, visit unpackinit.com/donate. We look forward to unpacking sports, faith, and life with you again next week.